Hi there everyone, and welcome to another episode on the channel. For today, if you weren't able to tell by the description, we're going to be doing another watch review, and the subject for today's review will be this Seiko Core Solar, reference SUP881. As you can be able to tell, it is a pretty reflective watch, but we'll be sure to go over in depth a little bit more on this timepiece and discuss some of the features in a little bit more detail. But for the wristwatch check, today I am wearing a Ferrari Scuderia. I forget the reference on this particular timepiece, but I got it a couple years ago and it was next in rotation, so why not throw it on? It's kind of large, but I kind of enjoy it still. But with that out of the way, and without any further ado, let's jump right into this Seiko Core. Alright, so now that we got ourselves in a different perspective, let's go over some of the details on this particular Seiko model. So inside the watch is running the caliber V115-0BC0. It is a light powered quartz movement. It has a power reserve of 12 months, so if you want to wear it for a day or two and then put it away, it should be able to still keep time for the next couple weeks, if not months, and you can be able to pull it right back out and wear it from there. Because it is quartz, the movement is hacking, so if you want to set it up to an exact time, you're more than welcome to do so with this particular Seiko. The crystal on here is their own proprietary material, so it is their Hardlex that's covering the watch, and the water resistance rating on this particular timepiece is 30 meters. So if you're thinking about taking this thing for a swim, I would personally not recommend to do so, but once you buy it, you can do whatever you want to it. So let's move on real quickly to the dimensions of the watch. Looking at the Seiko cross from about the 9 o'clock position over to the crown, we'll be looking at about 31 millimeters. The length of the watch, not including the lugs, is 39 millimeters if you are including the lugs for it. Lug width of about 22 millimeters, so you can be able to kind of put it on a few different straps. And the thickness of the watch is about 6 millimeters, so it is pretty thin. And if you are going to be wearing this with a dress shirt, then you can be able to slide it underneath it pretty easily, and it'll be able to kind of sit on your wrist nice from there. If you've been able to notice with the case and how it's a kind of this dark yet shiny material, it is a black ion plated stainless steel. So there are a few other Seiko watches that have this, and even a few Citizen watches have this as well. But one thing I will recommend and point out is if you are someone who doesn't like to have their watches show fingerprints or smudges constantly, this is a terrible material for you, because this thing will just gather up every piece of dust and fingerprint known to man and just keep it on there until you wipe it off. So that's one downside to the watch. But let's move on a little bit more onto the most important feature, or one of the most important features, and that is the ability to tell time on here. So one thing you might have noticed already is just how much light this thing will reflect and throw back at you. So from seeing it like this is actually a pretty good angle, but for the most part the watch is going to be throwing off a ton of different angles and hard to see portions of light. As you can be able to see, it's even hard for the camera to try to focus in on it. So that's one downside to it, and that's one thing you won't be able to see if you look up the watch online, is the reflectivity this thing will have, because if you get it in some lights you can be able to see it, but in other lights like this, it's very difficult to see the hands. Easy to see the markers, but good luck trying to read the time from there. So that's one downside to the watch. It seems to be more of a dressy piece, almost like a black tie watch in a way. But if you like the design, then you can be able to kind of go for it. One thing you might have noticed also with the dial is that it does have some vertical design to it, so there is a bit of tuxedoing on the dial. And if you also are able to look in some angles in some brighter light, you can be able to see the movement underneath, because it is a solar powered watch or a light powered watch. There'd have to be a way for the watch to gain its energy, so there is a portion in the middle where you can see a slight cutout for the light to enter through and power the watch from there. So if that's something that bugs you, then perhaps maybe looking at something else might be a better option. But another aspect you might have noticed too is that if you want to read the time exactly, it'd be a little bit hard because you only have the 5-minute markers to show you from the time, and a little bit of sunbursting as well. But to change the time, it's pretty nice, not too exciting. Some things that you might want to notice is that the hands will overlap like that, and it'll only look like one particular time, so that's one aspect about it. But personally, I like the hands because they are those Seiko hands, the very sharp looking, almost sword-like hands. I've always loved the design of it, but you can kind of tell with ones like this, they are a little bit on the cheaper side than you will find on some of their higher end models, even like a Grand Seiko model. You can be able to definitely tell that these are of a lesser quality. So moving on to the back now. It is a solid case back, but it does have some vertical brushing to it, so it is stainless steel, and it kind of mirrors the front a little bit with that vertical design. But as you can be able to see, there's nothing too exciting about the case back. The strap itself is okay. It is a calf strap, but it does have a crocodile, kind of alligator pattern to it, and it does taper as well, so it won't stay 22 millimeters all the way down. And the buckle also has the black ion plating to it as well. As you can see, it is signed. And one thing you might have noticed as well is the watch does kind of take on another iconic look from a different watch manufacturer. It looks pretty similar to a Cartier tank, even down to the crown having that cabochon to it. So it does mimic the Cartier in many aspects, but it is still a Seiko. But really, that's kind of about it on the watch. It's kind of a hit and miss for some. There's some aspects to it that are nice, and there's other aspects that kind of drag it down a little bit. But hopefully this kind of gives you a little bit more of an in-depth look at this particular timepiece. If you are thinking about purchasing it or have kind of played with the idea, then hopefully something like this can be able to help solidify which direction and course of action you're wanting to take. So I do thank you very much for checking out the video. If you have any thoughts about it, you can be able to kind of leave it down. Love to see some comments, and I'll be sure to upload something next week as well. Until then, guys, thank you very much for taking the time to check out the video, and I'll see you next time. Take care.